known each other since 1994. I worked at a Walmart down in Southern Maryland that summer, and she came in with two of her friends. And and the reason why I remember it so vividly is because they stood out with what they were wearing. They were wearing like these sundresses and they had like their hair in a bandana, but they were wearing like blue jeans, and they were carrying lunch boxes.
Totally makes sense.
So they stood out. But Susan stood out. I don't know why Susan stood out. I thought she was attractive.
And he never spoke to me. So that's the thing. Like on his mind, he knew me and he knew what I was wearing, which is I think is so sweet.
Yeah, when I told her that years later, 'cause I never told her that when we started hanging out. It was when we started dating, and she was just like, "Oh my goodness."
Right. So we hung out in the same social circle for 5, 6,
but we met
10 years.
We met at a party.
And he was always very lovely and polite, and he was the guy that had a direction he was going. In the meantime, I'm all over the place. And it wasn't until he had a show up here in Baltimore and I was going to school and he invited me to a show.
And I used to, you can tell it's a while ago. I'm sending out mass emails.
On MySpace.
On MySpace, yeah. And she was like, "I'll be there." And so she came and she stood out, and I was like, "Wow," and
thanks.
Made my move.
He did not really make an original. He thought he was making a move, but then he kissed me under streetlight, and that's all she wrote. When the kiss is so powerful that, it was almost movie poetic, and it was just the kiss. And then so I called him the next day to remind him. I was like, "I don't know if you forgot, but you kissed me last night." And we are not friends. We're more than friends now. We're
yeah.
And then you asked the question about my parents. And, did they ever instill in me that I need to be with a man of my own, like another white guy? I knew there was prejudice there, in spite of the fact that, they themselves come from, a religious divide. So he's Jewish.
Father's Jewish.
My dad's Jewish. He should have married a Jewish woman. And so his family, turned him away because he went out of his religion. So you would think that they'd be a little more sympathetic
and married a German woman. So.
I mean,
yeah.
When you're going to go big.
Yeah. I think we're pretty open about our communication. I've never been shy personally to talk about who I am and where I come from. It was instilled in me. It was one of those things that you be proud of who you are. You don't disrespect the name and make sure, because people are always looking at you. So when we started dating, that was always something that, at least from my perspective, I didn't feel a discomfort in letting Susan know how I felt or where I came from.
Yeah, I agree. We have always talked openly about race relations in our house and at our church. And it's something that we're both we feel very passionate about. Mm-hmm. Very convicted about, especially because we're raising young children. I'm heartbroken that he can't speak freely, or as convicted as he may feel in certain situations. I know that he is an upstanding man, and just given our world, people are not judging based on the content of his character by the color of his skin in certain, somewhat, it could be even a very innocent situation where you walk into a new environment and to have that weight of judgment without merit is difficult. I think I can speak a lot more freely and openly about my disgust and frustration, because I'm not held at the same, or held with the same not responsibility. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Nobody is going to judge me as harshly as they would judge him.
I guess the nice thing, the greatest thing about Susan is she's always been willing to listen to to that and empathize with that. So for me to go to her and let her know that, you know, this happened to me today, or the way things have been projected on television, the fact that I get angry when I see some things happen, the frustrations that I can come out and say that that is blatant racism, or that is something that's, you know, that person did something that's ignorant, and not offend her because the person that's doing it is white. I've always felt that at times she gets more upset than I do, because I'm so used to it. I'm like, well, it's part of what I am. Unfortunately, it's the makeup that has been bestowed upon us, is the fact that, you know, people are going to look at you this way. People are going to expect certain things out of you just because society has put put you under that umbrella, if you will. So when you come up and you talk to somebody and they're like, oh, wow, you said those words so eloquently, you know, to you, you're like, well, how's he supposed to say those words? You know, to me, it's part of the course. So I honestly respect and love the fact that she endears that, and that she knows if there is something that's weighing me down, or if there's something that I see that's really frustrating, that I can come to her and openly express those things without, you know, being falsely criticized or falsely judged.
We feel we're very blessed in the sense that you get to choose your friends. So we are surrounded by a whole beautiful melting pot of ethnicities, and our children do not know that they know they are special, but they don't think they're different. And it's not a conversation within our little internal circle.
I know, as far as when we're talking to our friends, like Susan said, talking to our friends either here or at home, our friends are pretty diverse as far as backgrounds, and they really didn't accept like racism and things of that nature, at least as far as we've seen. The one thing I would say is, I feel personally that I've sort of, you know, tore that stereotype of what a black man is to her parents. I think her parents came in a little bit with they didn't judge, but they, you know, when, you know, I was working and I had my clearance and they were like, oh, you know, and I think and the fact that certain things that they would say that they didn't think was, you know, down the road, you know, they realized, like, oh my gosh, you know, there's been a few times where her parents have apologized.
Well, Odell is the most upstanding man that I've ever been with. So that in and of itself should set precedence, you know, like he is a good man who has a job and a car and not living with his mom and dad, and, you know, he's got an addiction problem, so we can just say hallelujah to that. So, and that's just off the cuff. And then to find out, like, that he is a good man, but that cares for others. And my parents are interesting in the sense that they are the only parents I have, and I don't know. I always want to say they mean well. I feel like I give this like disclaimer, oh, well, they mean well. But even in the most innocent of situations, they are ignorant to what faces African Americans and minorities in general. Just like ignorant comments that, like stuff like, I brought a watermelon, and it's like, you don't realize that that's offensive because you haven't looked behind the veil. Like, what breaks my heart the most is that my parents can look the other way, and then when I say, well, what about your grandkids?
Yeah, that's
or my
the trigger.
husband, because that's where it gets personal.
Yeah, all of a sudden you get to the point where they say things and you're like,
but I didn't mean you.
Oh, well, I didn't mean you. I'm
right.
Sorry, or I'm not talking about, you know, Odell, or I'm not talking about the kids. They're our most precious things.
Right.
Well, when you say what you say and you use terms that are stereotypical, that are, you know, you may not seem demeaning or racist, but they are, especially when they come to me.
the one thing we don't do is shield our kids from, some people think that, they don't need to see all that's happening in the world because childhood is a gift and we should maintain their innocence for as long as possible. And I think we do to a degree, but, it's not unlike me at 5 o'clock to be like, I just need to watch the news to know what's going on around me. Not the 24-hour news cycle anymore, but just to have a taste of what's happening. And so part of that, because we have one TV in our home, is that the TV is on when the children are around, and it doesn't take more than a segment or two to see killing or police on African American brutality or children being victims of just being in the crossfire of gunfire. So we try to be honest and real about that, and try to explain that it's bigger than just race. It's not just because of the color of your skin, because I can honestly say that when I look at my children, I'm not seeing them as a biracial or black or white or any color other than a skin tone. And it's very simple and pure in and of that. Now, I'm not doing that, honestly, when I'm looking at Odell or other people that pass by, but with my own family, it is just that. There's no pretense with it. They're African American and Native American and German and Jewish. So they actually have this whole multitude of perspective.
It all goes back to the content of your character more so. Now you can't hide the fact that you're a darker skinned person than so-and-so down the street, or you're a lighter skinned person than so-and-so down the street. And they're gonna see you a certain way, just off of the basic stereotypes that are out there. And it's unfortunate, but it's a world that we live in. So we don't shield them from that at all. But what we try to do is instill the fact that, hey, you're an upstanding citizen, you're a young man, you respect, first and foremost, like with our son, he's 9, or he'll be 9, so he likes to race to the door first, open the door and go about it. I'm like, come back, open the door for your sisters, open the door for your mom. You always let the ladies go first. So trying to instill in him to be a gentleman, try to instill, it's okay to cry. It's okay to not to be tough and you got to hold it out all the time. But if there's something bothering you, come and talk. Be communicative. Look, that's a good question. Don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. It's easier to just stay. And I'm not saying it like, hey, go out and date, but make sure you're judging that person that you see or that person that you're talking to by their content and not necessarily by what they look like. That's what I could say. Don't lump everybody into one shell, if you will, because as a black man, you don't want that. That's the one thing that I don't want, and I can't stand is to be lumped into one just whole. He's a black guy and he does this or does this, and you're like, well, no, I know about this. I know about this person. I know about this type of music. I know about why can't I learn that? Why can't I? What, a black guy playing rock music or a black guy listening to this, or why can't I listen to this and then do this as well? What's stopping me? This is a free country. You can do that, and you don't want to pigeonhole yourself because you're going to miss out on a lot, and not necessarily just relationship wise. I think that's just part of it, but just people, period. Ask questions. Don't be afraid and don't be afraid to answer questions. Don't take, if a person's coming up to you and saying, hey, why does that offend you? Or, hey, why do you feel that this person did that? Or, explain to them. And I think that opens a lot of doors that are closed right now, is the openness. So.
if a white person, some white folks, or just around other white folks, I would encourage you to get out. I think it is very important that you get out of your comfort zone, like what you were talking about. I just want all people to think outside of yourself, and how can it's not just your perception. I think that we all get stuck in a skewed view of, well, because we believe this, it must be truth, and that's not the case. I think that if we all just live in a bubble of, this is my truth, so therefore it must be his, we lose a sense of responsibility to one another, and then we put, like you said, stereotypes and unrealistic expectations and just judgment. It's sickening. I just want people to step out. I think one small thing everyone can do is just literally go and serve a underserved community, or go into a city. If you don't live near a city, I think you just need to interact. Not on internet, not through social media. Like, listen, observe, be a part of.
Yeah, talk, communicate. And it's amazing how you have more similarities than you would have differences when you actually sit and talk to somebody. Their experiences are just the same as yours.
I didn't set out to marry a black man. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to marry a black man, or vice versa. I married Odell. I married Odell because it's him. I don't think Odell was like on a big search for the white woman. It just happened to be, I'm really awesome for him.
But yeah, at the end of the day, you just got to step out, listen, observe, and don't take, it's like I said, it's amazing how skin color is such a small thing when you look at the part of us that we're here, that, we can be so divided by the pigment of our skin. It's mind blowing to me. I think, I really believe wholeheartedly, and I'll tell this to anybody, just get out, wherever you live, small towns, big cities, it doesn't matter, just get out. If you're not going to college, go in the military, or just go do something, missions work, do something that you get to meet people from all over the world. Yeah. Just get out, and you'll be amazed at the fact that he's just like me, or we're very similar in the things that we do.
You put down the petty stuff for the real stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing how you work together, when that is it.